Good morning.
Good morning, Jenny White.
Good morning, Michael Grande.
Hey, don't say my name on the internet. I'm trying to stay on the.
Michael Grande. Michael Grande.
I told you before. I spent a lot of time trying to remove all my information from the internet.
Yeah, well,
thanks to politics, now it's
you have to say it right. Politics.
Yeah, politics. There you go.
Right. Kimberly Pilgrim says, "Good morning. Good morning, Kimberly."
That's a heck of a slide you made there for
hey.
Kayla.
I really loved that because I was thinking that's what Kayla is. She's like got the torch, she's got the eagle, she's got the flag, she's ready to go. So yeah, I was pretty excited about that. I was also excited this morning about so this morning I get up because Monday I had vertigo and was like green all day, was pretty much couldn't do anything. And so yesterday I finally got some work done. Today I got up this morning, felt good. It was like 5:30. I had a couple of loaves of bread to put in. I had this chore and that chore and this chore. And I'm just like cruising around, getting my chores done, fit in a little workout. And I'm so happy. And then I come to log in and my computer goes, "We have no idea who you are. I have no idea how to turn on." So I was like, I was like, this is what you get for being, kind of a little proud of yourself that you got up and got yourself done. And it was like, smack.
Wow.
So yeah, running a little, sorry about that.
Welcome to reality, Jenny.
Yeah, I know. It's like, what do you mean you're restarting? I'm not restarting. Why are you? So anything exciting happened over the weekend other than a sinkhole?
No, just a bunch of work on my cars, actually.
Well, that doesn't sound too exciting.
No,
there wasn't much to do because it was raining and it was cold.
Yeah. So that's a good time to do some work.
Okay. Well, Lisa actually made me feel better. She said was here till 9:05 yesterday. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because of the same thing that we had this morning. And Kimberly McMillan says, "Good morning." And we say, "Good morning to you." We have a good show today. We have one of our favorite people on who has come on several times and educated us about insurance, and don't think she probably won't come on again and have to do that again. But today she's not talking about insurance, is she? No.
Politics.
She's talking about politics, many ticks. So I'm going to bring her on this morning. Good morning, Kayla Blount. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. I love hearing the conversation because it just shows we're all human. I think we've all had those moments where we step back and go, I can't believe I just did that.
Well, and people think, you run a podcast. It's real professional. You know what you're doing. And I'm like, well, life happens. I mean, there's no...
Yeah.
You can't fix that.
Half the time, one of us are getting on here at 9:00.
That's true.
Usually me.
And that's true, too. It is usually you. So how are you this morning?
I am doing great. I'm with you. My mornings start very early because if I don't get up and get to the gym early, I don't expect me to do it at night because I'm done. And so I get up and I get ready and I was like, I am cutting it close this morning. So I call it Flight of the Bumblebee mornings, where I was like, okay, no hiccups, just go, 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 go. Because I only got here just a few minutes ago. So
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's like I love it that everybody's having the same moment, and we can all embrace each other and go, I get it. Because, and I just noticed StreamYard hasn't caught up yet. So there's another one still. There we go. Okay. It's caught up now. So you have a whole new gig here going on.
I do. Yes.
So you are the Oklahoma County Republican Party chair.
Yes. I'm trying to figure out how to eloquently state this, that I'm having to educate people that I am the chair, which means I represent them to do things that they want to get, things that our folks want to get done, and I'm not the B&M in chief. And if you've ever heard of the initials B&M, I want to be a good steward of what I say, so I'm not the itch and moan person, because I have found that in the first few weeks of the job, I was the person that you called because you wanted to tell me everything that was going wrong with the party. And while I do appreciate that, it helps educate me on things that we need to do going forward. People were wanting to bear past grievances, and I understand that we need to know what's happened in the past so we don't duplicate them. But it's a little bit, it's like moving the Titanic, trying to shift people from this is what happened, I understand, but this is what our plan is going forward. So it has been a journey. I'm thankful for the journey. I'm thankful for the happy people. I am thankful for the people that make me realize how I don't want to be. So you need all of these people in your lives.
You were making me giggle so much you made me cough. But isn't that true? It's like nobody gets the clean slate thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, I totally get it. And you're right. We have to learn from what happened before informs what we do moving forward. But then on the other hand, I'm not the other guy or girl or what, you know what I mean? I mean, it just, yeah. So I have to ask you, because here's the crazy thing. When I heard you were running, it was way too late for me to because I had kind of washed my hands of the party. And so it was too late for me to get involved. What made you decide you want to run?
I was actually approached last year, and it just wasn't something that I thought I needed to put on my plate. It wasn't something that I thought was going to be in my wheelhouse. And then just the maybe it's a little bit of the squeaky wheel. People just kept coming up to me and asking, and this is crazy, but one of the things that I do every day when I start my morning, the alarm goes off, I get up and do a few things, and then the first thing I do is do just my meditation and my Bible studies, and I happen to be reading Esther, and it really hit me because one of the things about Esther is God makes us for such a time as this, and I thought, okay, maybe this is something that I should really pray about. And it was weird. Literally the next 10 days, I received multiple calls of just, hey, we really think you should do this. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm made for such a time as this. And so I put my name in the hat, and I just left it up to God and said, if I'm supposed to take this journey, I will let you guide me. Wherever the chips fall, they're going to fall. And I will tell you, that Saturday morning when they did the announcements, I'm like, okay, I feel like I followed your will. Now you're going to have to guide me because this is going to be a challenge. And it has been, but I'll tell you what, it's actually been pretty good. I have met so many great people. And again, you always have those people that are put in your lives where it's an example of how you don't want to be. But I'm hoping by the way that I treat them and I respond to them, and we learn how to act as a party, as a whole, it will actually make those people be better as well. So it's something that you said, you learned way too late. I put my name in the hat probably about 7 weeks or so before the election. So probably not the most ideal time if you were a candidate that's been serious for a long time, but this is just how it happened on my journey.
Well, and apparently this was the way it was supposed to work. And it's funny too, because just having known you in the way I know you, I thought when I heard that, I thought, well, now that's an idea right there, because I mean, you're an excellent communicator. I mean, we wouldn't have had you on the show so many times if you weren't an excellent communicator. And to me, that's the biggest part of the job, is being the communicator. And then you just get so much done. I mean, you just kind of go this and this and this, and I'm doing this. And I thought, that's just going to be perfect. So, I mean, I hate to say this, but I think you're probably honed in there for the job. I mean, in my opinion.
A lot of pressure. My sisters will probably tell you, I'm the oldest of 3 girls, and my sisters will probably tell you, oh yeah, she was made for this. She's bossed us around our whole life. So
I'm laughing because I'm the oldest of 2. There are just 2 of us. And the only word that was ever linked to my name until I was probably 45 was bossy.
Yeah, sometimes strong, independent women get labeled that. So yes, I've heard that a time or two.
I'm like, but you know what? I'm over here getting stuff done.
And
So
that's just it. I think where I benefit in this role is just being a person, one, that's very organized. I'm a person that is very intentional about what I do, and then I'm also a person who I thrive on organization and processes. Like,
yeah.
it's funny, if you'll talk to some of the ladies at the office, I am truly one of the people that can walk in my door and go, "Who moved my stapler?" Because it has a place. It has a place where it needs to be. The same way with my closet, I can tell if you've moved stuff around. I'm just a very particular person. I don't like to use the words OCD. I like to think I'm very organized. However, it helps me in some of my life journeys. And so when you were talking about communication, after on Saturday, March 8th, when I won the election, I truly started making calls on the way home because I had a list of people that's like, okay, well, if A happens, I need to do this. If B happens, then it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah.
And so I literally started my job that Saturday of just calling folks that had been in leadership in the past and what's your biggest grievances, and then talk to some of the people in the party that have been involved for a long time and what are your pain points. I will tell you, the first 10 calls were communication. I'm like, okay, well, first thing we need to do is establish a really good means of communication. And so I try to be very effective in the communication that I send out, just for the fact that, one, I want you to know what's going on, but two, I know people don't have time to read, a dissertation every day, just because I want you to know every single thing that's going on. We try to hit the highlights, but also we're trying to encourage people to be involved. So, the deeper that you get into the process, the more that you do understand why we communicate the way we do and the things that we are doing. So we did actually do a brainstorming session last weekend.
I saw that. That was going to be my next question. You anticipated beautifully. How did that go?
It went very well. You never know when you put out a new idea, how it's going to be reacted to, how people are going to attend, what the thought process is going to be. But one of the reasons that I think I was encouraged to run is because it feels like society has made just a massive shift after COVID. And there is just a deep divide in how people communicate with each other. And I will tell you that I am a very positive person. It's not because I don't have bad thoughts. It's not because I cannot be mean. There's some people that you can ask, I could be mean, but it's because I intentionally try to be a positive person because that's what pulls people in. And if I'm positive about a situation, instead of getting angry about something that upsets me, it helps me process my thoughts better if I'm not operating on just emotional craziness. So I think that's part of the reason why I was asked. But another thing that was brought up was, there is such a big divide. These people don't like these people. Okay, well, why? I don't know. Well, how do you not like somebody if you don't know why you don't like somebody? And so just getting everybody together going, okay, there seems to be some disconnect. What is the disconnect? And so a theme that was reoccurring at the brainstorming session was, you ask us to communicate with our legislators. I don't even know how to get a hold of my legislator. Well,
interesting.
To me, I've been in this process for 25 years, and I'm also currently the president of the Oklahoma Federation of Republican Women. And we train people on how to be an effective communicator. How do you communicate with your legislator? Well, I didn't take that thought process and put it over here. I just assumed if you were involved, you know what that meant.
Right.
So I logged on to the state website. It was literally 8 clicks to figure out how to contact my legislator. Well, if you're not very tech savvy, or if you don't have a lot of time, or if you're one of those people that don't always put on your patient pants, are you going to click 8 different times?
Wait. I can't wait. Patient pants. That's what's the matter with me. I have no patient pants in my wardrobe.
There are several folks that do not. We'll be working on that.
Oh my God, Kayla, you're killing me this morning. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but that was too
I'm
much.
glad I can bring humor because some people were very upset about this, but I didn't realize that we asked people, hey, we're doing a call to action. Will you do this? Well, you're not telling me how to do it. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, great point. I'm glad people brought that up because it's something that I never thought about in the step process because I already knew how to do it.
Yeah.
So just taking a step back and listening to feedback. So that was literally, so we had 8 pages of those big notepads. I mean, like the ones that you stick on the wall. I mean, we have
Right.
8 pages. We have probably about 50 things we're sorting through there
Wow.
and prioritizing them. But it became, a reoccurring theme. So Sunday afternoon and Monday morning, we worked with our communications team and we changed the county website where there's now a tab at the top that says legislators. You click on it, put in your address, and it gives you the information you need. Well,
Nice.
if we're asking you to do something, I need to make sure that you have the tools to be able to effectively do it. So that brainstorming session, we were able to take action on something immediately. And then there's some
Yeah.
other items that we'll be able to get into place this week as well. So I thought it went great. The weather was not very cooperative. It was very cold and rainy, and we still had a great turnout. So I thought that was positive for everybody.
Well, there wasn't anything else for them to do. They better have been there then.
That's true. You better have a really good reason not to have been there.
So your vice chair is somebody I've known since middle school. I'm not kidding you. Donna Rice and I have known each other since we were like 10. How do you feel about working with Donna? I mean, she's been involved, but just kind of recently since COVID got really involved. And I'm so glad to see that with her. I mean, it was exciting when I, saw her at a meeting one time. So how do you feel like you guys are going to work together?
She is a wonderful partner to be teamed up with. We have the same goals in mind, and she's a person that we've already had a couple of conversations. Well, it's like, well, I see it like this. I see it like this. Okay, well, let's see how we can merge these two together to make sure that we communicate this effectively. So she's great to work with. She is also like me. She's not going to ask anybody else to do something that she isn't willing to do herself. She's a great workhouse.
She's a hard worker.
She is such a hard worker. And we work great because she wants to be behind the scenes and make sure it runs effectively. Where part of my role is being in front, not always being able to do the work, but making sure that it gets delegated back so I can continue to go out and share things about our party. So we work so well together. She is a very kind person. And she's like me. We like to make a list and get things done because we want to be able to show the people that, hey, you ask us to do these things. And so this is what we're doing to make sure that this runs effectively.
I'm going to say something and y'all can just, I mean, there are plenty of you on today. You can just hit me up after I say it. I think men are phenomenal people. I'm glad I have one in my life that I've had for over 30 years. I love him. He's the best. Michael's like the brother I never had. I love him a lot. I just, love guys. But the one thing guys have I'm blanketing. Okay, I'll admit it. But the one thing that I notice about guys is they're not detail people. They're not. And I think it's because they don't have to be. I mean, women run a household, they have kids, they possibly have a job, they've got this and that. They multitask way better than most of the guys that I know. Certainly like I said, I love my husband. He's wonderful, would never get rid of him, but he can't multitask. And he will tell you that. He will go, stop, I'm not dealing with that. I'm doing this. Yeah. They just don't. And when I saw that 2 ladies had won the top spots, I have to tell you, I kind of thought, you know what, bring it. Because I think these girls are going to have lists, which you just told me, and be able to, compartmentalize things while you're multitasking and get a lot of things done. I mean, that's just the way I see it.
Well, I think it's important to have a process because if you have a process, you have a set way to get things done to make sure things don't fall through the cracks. But if you don't have a working list, what's our roadmap to get things done? One of the the things that I, being a business owner, one of the first things that I wanted to get in is look at the finances. Because if I don't have money to be able to do training, to put on and sponsor events, to get other people engaged, then I'm going to have to shift a little bit, make sure I get some money in the pot so we can be active. Well, knowing that there had not been a really true budget and finance committee that would have done things the way that I prefer things to be done, get a set budget, making sure you're setting goals, making sure you're communicating that so people can hold you accountable for your goals. So if we do that process with all of the committees and the things that we're supposed to get done, then you're going to see the county moving forward. And when people see the progress, they're going to be like, hey, well, I jumped off this train earlier because it wasn't going the direction that I wanted. But now that I see it, hey, I think I do want to be involved. And so I'm hoping that we're encouraging people to get back involved if they've jumped off the train, because we do have a plan, we do have goals, and we're showing you every step of the way of how we're achieving those and moving forward.
So I want to know what your plans and goals are.
So one is to bring the divide back. And I will tell you that that's a long-term goal. We're making tiny progress every day, but we've talked about this before. I think there was a fundamental shift in people's attitudes and their demeanor during COVID, because when you get taken out of a community setting and isolated, it messes with people a little bit. And so being isolated, I think there was a shift in how people interacted with each other. And I will tell you, I talk about this for both sides. So I'm going to talk about our side, and then I'm going to talk about the legislator side. But part of it is how we communicate with each other. And then part of it is how we communicate with our legislators and understanding what true words actually mean. And so one of the things that when I took this role, and I've had to tell people this a couple of times, or not tell, but just explain it, is I've had people that have given me suggestions, and then I correspond back to them. And some of them has been like, well, you work for me. Well, let me step back a little bit. I don't work for people. I was elected to represent you. I represent my neighbor. I represent the guy down the street, and I represent the guy at the end of the county that may not think the way that I do. I was elected because of what I think and feel and what I propose. And the majority of the people, at least, aligned with me more than the other candidate. It doesn't mean that we saw everything eye to eye. If I listed a list of 10 things, is everybody in the county going to go, oh, yeah, that was my top 10, 1 through 10? It's not going to happen that way. But I think we align on a majority of things. So you want to partner with me. Well, we have to make sure that people understand that I represent everybody. So if I don't do exactly what you request 100% of the time, doesn't mean that I don't represent you, but maybe your view for that particular subject doesn't align with the majority of everyone else. The same way that it is in politics, but it feels like it has shifted where people just get all over and really reprimand the politicians. It's like, I gave you a list of 1 through 10. You did number 2 and 6 wrong. You're horrible. Well, that's not always the case, because that person's opinion may not have been in the majority. So it's communicating with people and trying to get them to understand that, we may not agree on everything 100% of the time, but if you feel like this is going in a good direction, then we still want you to be part of the team. And if it's something that, hey, you really, really have a concern about, you are a perfect candidate for that committee, because you can help us push it forward in the direction that you think that it needs to be going. And so communication is really big on that. What were we talking about earlier about COVID and just the people's attitudes in general? Yeah. I feel like there's been a little bit of shift, and people are angry about things, and it's hard right now. The economy's hard. I know I've been on the podcast a few times for professions. Right. I will tell you that being in the profession of insurance, it is not a dream profession right now. I will tell you, in the past year, I have never taken a phone call where people call to ask me how my day is. It's not that profession. It's a little rough. People call because they're upset about things. Yeah. Well, I need to be able to effectively communicate what's going on in the industry so they understand. It's the same thing with politics. Look at all of the bills that they see every day, which we do need to touch on some of the bills. Yeah. But there are bills that they see every day. Well, not everybody wants to see every single bill passed or turned down. And so it's just learning how to effectively communicate with each other. And I keep saying that word, but I feel like that's the word where we've had the biggest disconnection, is how we communicate with each other. And we were talking earlier, I've received some very colorful emails. I did not realize that there are people out there that type in all caps, but I've received some emails that are all caps. Well, I will communicate back with you, but in my correspondence in the email, I will tell you that, hey, I want this to be a respectful conversation. I expect you to respect me, so I'm going to give you the respect that I expect in return. And so if I receive 2 or 3 emails that it is all caps, we're either going to transition that communication to face-to-face, or maybe we need a phone call, because this is not the best way to effectively communicate. And I hope if we set that standard and get that going across the board, then it's going to make it better for everybody. And saying that on our side, I expect that from the legislators as well. You know, they need to learn how to effectively communicate with us. And when I say communicate, respond.
Wow. No, I'm serious. Wow, because I agree with you. I'm not even sure, but I'm going to disagree with you. I think COVID exacerbated it, because I think COVID made everybody very internal. And so we all became a little bit more selfish, because we weren't communicating with other people and we didn't have that community kind of sense. But I think it started long before that, because I've been in the Republican Party for, in and out for 15 years. And I remember when I started with the party, and I felt like, I was pretty conservative. I've always been, extremely conservative. And I always kind of felt like I was the odd man out. And I didn't get a great reception for a lot of those years, which is why I've kind of been in and out of the party, because, for my life, I think to myself, if this is the way it's going to be, I don't have time to put up with this, because I have, other things going on. So I just give up and get out. And so I think there has been, this is my perception. So if you're a conservative, your back is already pretty straight, because you feel like you're going to get attacked for being conservative. And then if you're a little more moderate, then your back is up, because you feel like you're going to get attacked for being not very conservative. And I think Trump has given a lot of gumption, for lack of a better word, to conservatives. And a lot of those conservatives want to interpret that gumption as being, we're going to do it my way. You're fired, right? And that we're not getting anywhere by doing that, because then that just makes everybody get a little bit more uncomfortable, with each other. But I think it's hard, because so many of us, especially those of us who are on the very conservative side, have seen the degradation of our government since Obama. I mean, I've witnessed it, because I was born in the 60s. So I've seen it just go, with the Marxist communist influence. And I think there are people like me who are I'm done with that. I don't want to have to listen to you say that it's okay that we have men competing with women in girls' sports. I don't want to have to listen to you tell me that it's okay that we give OG&E $44 gazillion in tax credits every year, or Nextera, or whatever. And so I guess I've kind of, just speaking about me, I've kind of gotten to the point where, okay, I'm done with this. If we're not going to move a little bit my way, then I'll just get out. So, I mean, I think that's kind of, and I mean, I'm just being honest.
Oh, and it's true. And I'm glad you said that, because a couple of years ago, President Trump was doing an interview, and they were asking him about his tweets. And I will tell you that I've read some of them and thought, oh, I would not have said it that way. But he responded back to the reporter, and he said, everybody loves my tweets. Or my tweets. And I'm like, do they? I'm
all of them?
I don't, yeah. And so it does start from the top down. And that's one thing about trying to do a fundamental reset, if I'm at the top of the pyramid, things trickle down. So if
Yeah.
I set the tone and if I set the path, then hopefully a little bit of that will change. But we don't want people to be afraid to speak up either. I will tell you that I've said this for years, but I'm like the little 80-year-old person who wants to go back to how things, because I am extremely conservative. However, this is going to shock some people, and I'm sorry if this disappoints you. The news isn't always true. I'm so sorry. It's not always true. They do the squeaky parts of every story. Like just last, or maybe it was about 2 weeks ago, Riley Gaines was down in Norman, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and she had thousands of people there supporting her. And there were maybe 200 or so protesters. Well, guess what made the news? Look at all of these protesters. And it's not how it is. So we want to make sure that people also feel empowered to speak up if they feel that they're in the minority, because a lot of the times they're not. They're just not what the news reports. And what I love the statistic, and I would hope everybody shouts this from the mountaintops, because it gives people like us hope of what's coming down the pike. But the most conservative part of our party that's growing is 28 to 35-year-olds. And
Oh,
some
wow.
people are like, no, it is. And the reality is they have seen the policies over the last 12 to 16 years. They're in a lot of debt if they went to college. It's hard to find a job. They're probably, or a lot of them are still living with mom and dad. They don't have the income that they thought they would have. And they're taking a step back to analyze and going, wait a minute, well, this doesn't work, but I've seen this. So what if I try this? Well, this is conservative policies. But you're not hearing that in the news. Every once in a while, you'll see a statistic on it, but they're not promoting that. So that should give us all hope, but also help to encourage the younger people to get involved. Because if we're not mentoring and training people up, I'm telling you, I cannot keep this pace forever. I don't know if I can keep this pace for 10 years. So if I'm not pulling people behind me and mentoring and training them, who am I going to turn this over to?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to put up what Lisa said. I think when frustrated citizens say you work for me, they're truly meaning you represent me. We're upset because we have communicated and we're too often dismissed, mocked, and unheard. And I agree with Lisa. I think she said that beautifully. Because especially this session, when you have more Democrat bills actually that are being heard in the House than our Republican bills, that's a big issue. That's a big problem. So we are having that, but I want to get beyond that for a minute. And let's go back to that in a second. You had said just a second ago, you wanted to talk about something. What was it, Michael?
Well, just talking about the bills that are heard and not being heard.
That's it. That's what you said. Okay.
So this goes into communicating as well. Well, and I want to go back and tell you this, because this was something that really hit me in the face about communicating and the way that things are projected versus what has actually happened. So a couple of weeks ago, I was up at the Capitol because we were working on a bill, and somebody called into headquarters and was really upset that I did not answer the phone. They thought I should be there to answer the phone. That was what my job was. Well, later that evening, somebody had texted me and said, hey, thanks so much. We heard that you were at the Capitol all day. Thanks so much for representing us. Well, I heard from two constituents that day. If you look at the statistics, 50% of them thought I was doing a lousy job. 50% of them thought I was doing a great job. Well, yeah. So our politicians need to hear from us. But we need to communicate what we want in an effective manner. And so when we have these bills that need to be heard, we need to communicate with them and say, hey, I really want you to hear this bill. Is there a reason why you're not hearing this bill? Rather than sending an all cap email or all cap text or screaming at their administrative assistant, we need to make sure that we're communicating in an effective manner with them. And what I found out is people have, like you and I contact my legislator. I'm in contact with several of them on a weekly basis, but I'm very consistent about what I do, and I'm very respectful about what I do. People complain about things, and I'm going to use the word complain. People complain about things, but they don't take action on them.
Yeah,
so you guys
I
have
agree.
found out that a lot of people will just rant and rave on Facebook, and I have private messaged them and say, hey, have you contacted your legislator? Crickets. Well, they need to know how you feel about this, because if we don't put the pressure on them to steer the train, then who's driving the train?
No, I completely agree with you on both fronts, because as long as I've been doing this, that, I mean, and Michael, you said the same thing too. You know, when you were running, there were, you know, people who didn't even vote who said they were going to vote. So, yeah, I mean, there is that. But there's also the fact that there is a big group, you know, out here where I live in Eastern Oklahoma County and in Lincoln County, and others, Payne County, that are very active. And we talk to our legislators on a regular basis. They just refuse to hear a word we say. And, you know, or they hear intermittent words that we say. So there are those too. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. So outside of
go ahead.
Do what?
Well, and I live out by you, so like one of the big things on my personal agenda is the bio waste stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
they just killed that bill yesterday. So SB3, right down the toilet.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's not good. And that's one that we've been complaining about. That's one, you know, Jim Shaw got elected to take care of. And of course they didn't hear any of his bills and shut him down. So I would hope that, you know, certainly one of the things going forward is to make sure that people understand who the legislators are who just simply won't communicate and don't want to do, you know, things that the people are asking. So you said you had a list of things that you were doing, and the first one was communicating and getting everybody kind of, at least, because we can't all be on the same page. Being any conservative leader is like being a cat herder.
Correct.
Sorry, it's been like that for years. Conservatives are the epitome of individualists. You can never really get them on the same page, which is why the socialists always win, because they just get together and go, bah, 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 follow after each other, do whatever they say. It works. But we're, on the other hand, we're like, no, I don't like the color of napkins you used at the luncheon. I mean, it's just crazy. So we can't get everybody probably on the same page, but we need to get everybody communicating with one another, because then at least we can come to consensus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's one of your other goals outside of that one?
So expanding the way that we communicate. So right now we've got a good email established, and our communications go out via kind of like a newsletter.
Yeah.
We're going to be starting, and I'm 6 of one, half a dozen the other on this, because I don't want people to feel like they're spammed. But we're also going to start texting, reminding people about elections, maybe texting on certain bills that we're trying to push, because that's another avenue of communication where people are on Saturday, we're talking about, well, I don't always read my email, but I have my phone with me all the time. Okay, that's great. Maybe setting up like a phone bank, but this takes manpower. Yeah. If we want to be able to do this, it takes manpower. And so, you know, we don't always see eye to eye on everything, but we have committees. And if you have something that you are passionate about, get involved in that committee. So establishing really foundational committees and making them working committees is another goal that we have, because we want this to be an organization that is run by everybody. I'm the chairperson, which means I'm the one that's steering the ship. But if I don't have people guiding me and giving me wisdom of what to do, I don't know where to steer the ship. So the more people that are involved, the better it is, because we've got more and better guidance of how to steer the ship. So if people get involved in the committees, that helps everybody.
Well, and I will say this, one of the things that I have noticed over the many years is you'll get people involved if they see a clear goal. if they see a clear goal and they have a clear goal, then they'll get involved. But it's like so many times, I mean, today, good grief, it just feels like everything's pressing down on you. You know, you have this thing to take care of and that thing to take care of. It's not like people just, or I should say this, there are a lot of people out there who have excessive free time, and they have excessive free time because they don't give a rat's butt about what's going on in America or anything else. And so they just have completely unplugged and do their own thing. But those of us who actually do understand what government takes and are interested, you get to a point where you kind of feel like, I'm going in so many different directions and also trying to take care of my own stuff, and I can't even do this. If I don't have a clear goal, then I'm out. I mean, because I have other things that I have to do. So I think by making clear goals, people will show up. If you build it, they will come.
Well, and the same thing goes with fundraising. I can't just send an ask out there and say, send me money. Okay, well, what are you going to do with my money? Well, we want to do training. We want to support candidates. We want to be able to hold events in the community that gets more people engaged. You need to know how I'm spending that money. We need to advance some of our technology so we can have better communication. So we're getting ready to run a campaign that's going to be for building and funding our technology so we can communicate better. So if we've got goals on fundraising, but then you also know how that money is going to be spent, people are more apt to give money because they know that it's going towards a specific avenue. So clear communication and having goals are very key. It was very disappointing last year that we didn't have our biggest fundraiser of the year. Well, that's our Lincoln Reagan dinner. Yeah. And so within the first 10 days, we had, we got a fundraising chair, and we made the top 5 priority things that we need to do to start raising money. And we've already got a date. The location should be secured this week, and we're already working on a speaker for February of 2026. So it's just making sure that, you know, it's important to get a list, but you have to actively work down that list and then be able to share it with people, because our goal is to get the confirmation from the speaker and literally be able to promote this event for 8 months. I mean, how great is it if you can plan for something for 8 months instead of 8 weeks? You know, people can get it on their calendar and work around it. It's the same thing with our meetings. After the state convention, we will release everything, but we're going to have meetings put on the calendar until December. Well, if you know that a meeting is going to be on a set time, on a set date, it's easier for you to plan. Another thing.
So I'm going to ask you then, so are you going to do meetings for just the executive committee, or are you going to allow anybody who's in the party who wants to come to meetings?
So both. I will tell you that there's been a large emphasis on the executive committee, and I have a way different perspective about the executive committee. The executive committee holds zero power. They are an advisory board. And so instead of having this massive executive committee and then these tiny little bitty committees that actually where work is supposed to be done, we're going to have the reverse. Have a very small executive committee where we hear a little bit of ideas. They're here to help guide me and give me wisdom, give me thought process. But building our community or our committees is where we're actually going to get things done. And then the county meeting is where everybody's going to be involved. We have to encourage the precinct chairs to get there and the vice chairs so we have a quorum to conduct business. But that's where it gets done. Our committee members or our committees will be there. They'll give reports on what's happening in the committee, and then we'll be able to make decisions with a quorum, everybody being there, and get things done for the county. So my perspective is a little bit different and turn that pyramid upside down, because that's really where things get done. They don't get it done in the executive committee.
Well, on that county side, Kayla, I mean, do you think what's like the timetable of those like county committee meetings, like quarterly, like if people knew every quarter there's going to be your local county community, committee meeting? I mean, is that kind of what you're thinking there?
So the committee meetings is going to depend on the committee, because there's times that certain committees are going to need to meet more often than others. So we're working on those schedules. But for the county meetings, we're going to do those once a quarter, because it gives you a chance to get the information and get things worked. before we have the next meeting. Doesn't mean we're not going to be able to call any additional meetings, but I also don't want to just meet to have a meeting where we get what happens in the meeting is we get business conducted and then your roadmap to what to do out in your precinct. So having meetings just to have meetings is not very effective. We need to have meetings to communicate and get the goals, but then working out in the precincts is where we're actually going to make traction in the party.
Like that. I like that. So, I had a question while you were talking, then it jumped the track.
Well, I'll ask another question while
Okay,
you're thinking
good.
about that, Jenny. I think for me and like all the grassroots people that I talk to, and I consider myself as grassroots as I can possibly be, I just think kind of in the past, you've had that executive committee that was kind of more just appointed by whoever the chairman was or whoever, and they were making the majority of the decisions for the county or whoever, rather than the actual, committees of the people, like at the precinct level. I'm glad to hear what you said, because to me, that's who needs to be making those decisions about spending and credentials, and all those things need to be coming from that smallest committee, not the executive committee.
Well, and you have to look at how our county is set up. We have a very large county. We have the biggest population, and it's very diverse.
Yeah.
What I need up in the northeast part where my precinct is going to be way different than what they need over on the west side. The executive committee has no power to make decisions or change rules or anything like that. They are an advisory committee. So having that, having a huge committee there is almost a little bit of a waste of time, because you're sometimes meeting just to have a meeting. Where it really gets done is on the precinct level, because different precincts have different needs. And in order for us to all work together, if I say something that's good for my precinct that's not good for yours, how active are you going to be?
Well, and I think it's easy to try again. I think it's easy for people to feel disenfranchised if they're not actively involved in some kind of part of it. And I think the idea of having a quarterly meeting solves a lot of that, because then you can go and not only that, getting to know the people in your county, not just your precinct, but in your county is so helpful, and having a sense of community. And, I think that's, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I have friends who have been involved in the party for a long time, and I was involved on the executive committee, and I get that, but I prefer this model where we're not disenfranchising people, and we're actually having them come to a meeting where they can meet each other and, kind of see what's going on, and get to feel like they're part of the group. Because one of the things, and I don't think this was exactly the question I was going to ask, but I'm going to kind of pause it more as a stream of consciousness comment, I guess. One of the problems I think that we're having is that the people in the party aren't really sure the issues that we're seeing at the state level. I think we don't understand what our legislators are supposed to be doing. I think we think that they go up there and write bills. I think that's what they're supposed to be doing. I don't think people really understand the fundamentals behind what they're supposed to be doing. And I think we've got to have, like you said, some education about how to contact your legislators. Well, we need to have some discussion about what these people are supposed to be doing, because I'm not sure that we even understand that. And while we want our legislators to be involved in the party, for me, I want them to be involved in the party so long as they understand what the party platform says and they're willing to work that platform. Because otherwise, what difference are we between the Democrats or an independent or a libertarian if we don't have a platform that we stick to?
Well, and so this is where the circle is. So we're going to tackle a couple of different things. So we're talking about the executive committee, and then we're talking about precincts, and there's a whole bunch of things that go in between. So when we have a county meeting, the county meeting is to get everybody there so we can all share ideas, know what's going on. These are where we are on our goals. These are where we are on our committees. And then this is what we need to do to get the task finished. But you also forget of all the different layers. So you can do individual precinct meetings. You can do several precincts together. You can do house district meetings. So just because there's not a county meeting, it doesn't mean that you can't be active in the house district as a whole or your precinct. But it's also going to be incumbent on us. We want to make sure that we're doing things that not only get people involved, but get the legislators involved. If we're helping to hold meetings, if we're helping to hold community events, if we're having training, well, part of their job is to get out and work their community. Well, if they go on knock on doors, they're doing one thing at a time. Think about if we had effective meetings or effective gatherings or a place where the representative could go and within 2-3 hours visit with a couple of hundred people. I mean, we have to look at being great communicators and a good steward of our time on both ends. So if we're being really effective as a county and hosting these events, getting our legislators involved and coming, you're building a good relationship with them, but they're able to hear from hundreds of people at a time instead of just a small group of people knocking doors on a Saturday. So a little bit of it is incumbent on us about what we're going to do to help engage them, but they have to be involved and want to come in and be involved in what we're doing as a county to help them.
Well, so we had a comment here from Jana, hold them accountable. And I think, I'm always honest, so I'll just be honest again. One of the reasons I've kind of quit being involved in the party is because of the fact that I believe in a platform. I served on the platform committee for I don't know how many years, 5-something years. And served on the platform committee. And it's my personal opinion that our platform is way too large. It's got the most bizarre, little tiny things in it that is like, are you kidding me? But to me, there was, I don't remember who actually did it, but came up with a one pager that was on the Oklahoma County Republican website for a long time. It was just a one pager. And it put pretty much all of the overarching issues on that one page. I think the one thing that would get me re-engaged in the Republican Party would be to see that we were saying, here is our platform. Here are our 5 to 8 major things. We keep government small. We allow the most personal liberty, that whatever they're going to be. And say, at this point, if you're not going to, if the votes that you're making and the bills that you're running don't align with that, then you need to be in another party. I mean, you need to find someplace else, because otherwise, what makes us the Republican Party?
Well, and there's 2 ways to do it. One is the communication, making sure that when we're communicating with them, it's effective. We're not screaming at them, or we're not being disrespectful. We want to make sure that if we schedule a meeting with them, we're very concise about what we want to talk about, and we don't need to tell them what happened with grandma 60 years ago, because we need to be a very good steward of their time. At the same time, if that doesn't work, the ultimate place to hold them accountable is the ballot box. But if we're working together in our precincts and our house districts and really providing them the information of, hey, this is how we think you should vote. We understand that you represent everybody, but we feel like we're the mass majority of the people, and we would like you to vote this way. If they don't, then ultimately the place where we do hold them accountable is the ballot box.
Well, and I 100% agree with you. I mean, that's the bottom line of this whole Republican system, is that individuals have the right to vote. And when they use their right to vote, then whoever is there that wasn't doing a good job gets a different job, not that same one. And so I completely agree. But I think the other thing that I've wanted to see the party as a whole do a better job at, and even at the national level, do a better job of saying what a Republican is and what makes us different than Democrats or libertarians or independents.
And that is hard, because You stated it perfectly earlier. There is, we look at it as the Democrats are, you register as a Democrat, you hold your place in line, they give you your orders, and then you march. We stand in line, we get our orders, and we're like, yeah, no, let me tell you. And so we're going to have to find a happy medium between that. I want to be able to have my own voice and my own say, but I need to make sure that I'm cognitive and I look around. If I'm the only one saying this, I'm probably not in the majority. So work it backwards. Think about it. If we're working in our precincts, we're visiting with our neighbors, we're having good conversations, seeing if we're on the same page with the same topics, the same bills. Take it to another level, going to our house districts. The more engaged we are, I think the more effective that we can be in communicating and then ultimately holding legislators accountable. And one of the things that I've done as the president for the Oklahoma Federation of Republican Women is try to get more younger people involved. And I have probably stated this more times than I would like to, but people will be like, well, I don't have time. I don't want to get involved. Well, here's the ultimate truth. If you don't get involved in politics, politics will get involved with you. You don't have to do it 24/7. We're all given 168 hours in the week. I cannot dedicate all 168, but I make sure that a good majority of it is dedicated to this because this is what I feel that my role is. If you can only dedicate 2 hours, that's great, but we need to plug you in where the most effective way for your time. If you're a great communicator, let's get you on the communications team. If you're great at fundraising, let's get you on the fundraising team. If you are great at training, let's get you in and help training people in our precincts. It doesn't mean that you have to be the catch-all for everything. And if you can only donate 2 hours, that's great. I am very happy to receive those 2 hours. But we need to get you plugged in where it's the most effective use of your time and the most effective use of how we can really get you engaged and be a good steward of your time too.
Well, now you end up as the chairman. You go to the national meetings, correct?
That's the state. That's the state chairman.
Oh, the state chairman does. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, but there's room at the top, I guess. So at the state level, just hearing what the national Republicans are doing, I mean, do you have any thoughts about that? National versus state?
So I don't. I'm going to go back to the phrase that's I need to concentrate on the things in my boat right now. My biggest thing right now is making sure that we are getting Oklahoma County established red again. If you look at the map of Oklahoma, people are like, oh, wow, Oklahoma's a red state. All 77 counties voted for President Trump. If you dive into that map, Tulsa County and Oklahoma County were purple. So if we don't do a good job in just reactivating people and getting them engaged, there's a good chance that Oklahoma County could turn blue. And that may shock people, but those who have been involved for a long time, it's not shocking. And a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats, and I will tell you, it's actually heavier on the Democrat side, have unregistered with their parties and registered to be an independent. Well, why have they registered to be an independent? Well, they feel left behind. Well, we need to make sure that those people don't feel left behind. They need to understand that we're not going to agree on every topic, but if we can show them our platform and if they align more with our platform than they do with the other one, then we need to invite them to be a Republican and start doing the work on the ground for us so we can get our the things that we want to get accomplished progressed.
Well, but see, that I'm going to have to disagree with you on, and I'll say that and say why in just a second. But Stephanie says, I mean, she agrees with you. We all get frustrated, but if we don't stay involved, we'll never change anything. I don't want to sit back and wait for others to fix it. It's going to take all of us working together. So in my perspective and the independents I've talked to are Republicans who are sick of the party not standing up for being a Republican, and they've left. I've not talked to one independent who was a Democrat who left. And I don't know where that talking point has come from, but I would have to see hard and fast data on that. I don't believe that because in my personal sphere, in the independents that I know, and I know a great deal of them, they've left the party because the Republicans have let them down. And to follow up, the Democrats, I know a number of Democrats, and these are people that we even did school together with, who have posted even on their Facebook pages around the time of an election. Don't forget, you can sign up as a Republican in order to enter into the primary, so you can make a difference in the primary. And then you can go back to being a Democrat when we get the person that we don't like out in the primary. So that's the stuff that I'm sick of. I'm absolutely sick of. I'm sick of the talking point on that, because if we don't stand for something, we're going to stand for nothing, and we're going to pretend that we're that independents are blue, or that we have to keep getting Republicans into the party. I've never believed that. I will never agree with that one statement. Our job is not to get Republicans into the party. Our job is to get Republicans, people who believe in the platform, to go out and get the work done of keeping our party going based on the platform that we have. So I would have to, that's kind of a big disagreement that I have, just in that. And then Julia kind of agrees with me. She says Democrats left and joined the Republican Party to corrupt it. So for me, when we try to bring other Republicans into the party, you're not concentrating on getting the Republicans out of the independent party and moving them back to where they got out because they got disillusioned with the party in the first place. And Steph agrees with me on that particular point too. I agree. We have to educate voters on voting. We clearly keep getting Dems and Limbs who are posing as Republicans. You have too many of them in the House right now that you can look at their voting record and say, you know what? You're not even voting like a Republican. If we can't all agree that Republicans mean small, limited government, I'm out. I think that's a big, huge thing. And that's
And it is, and we want people to join our party because they do believe in our platform, and we're always going to have those people, and I just call them negative forces that do things in the world just to corrupt it and make things not go smoothly. And
yes, they're called Marxists or communists.
Yes, but my hope is if we do a good job, truly from the grassroots up in our precincts, in our House districts, we're communicating effectively, wanting people to get involved. And we'll be able to have higher numbers so it combats that. So maybe I didn't articulate it in a very good way, but I do agree what you say. I don't want people just to check the box so they can sign up and do something that may not be conducive to our party. I want people to check the box because they believe in the same things that I believe in. But we have to be effective from the bottom up. And that's just so hard because then you talk about getting into time and it's like, people look at me and be like, well, I don't want to be involved at the level that you're at. That's great. You don't have to be. But if I could just get a little bit of your time, and we have to think about it this way too. There's going to be people that are in a stage of life that can't give time. Well, You know what you can do? You can give a little bit of money. I'm not asking you to sign your house away, but if you give a little bit of money and I show you where I'm spending that money, that's how we can get people engaged and active too. And I would much rather have workhorses on the team because that's how we build a better team. But at the same time, I've had points in my life where it's like, I just cannot fit another thing in. Can I send you a check for $50? I mean, we're going to have that. And we need that because we have to keep it funded too.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. I completely agree with that. And Steph said something about, yes, education is the key, because I go back to what you said earlier, because I completely agreed with that. If we can't educate people as to if they don't even know how to get in touch with their reps, we're in big trouble. But they need to know, they may intuitively know what a Republican is, but they need to be educated about that too. So any other thoughts about what your strategy is for moving forward? Because communication is phenomenal, and I think those ideas are phenomenal personally.
Well, communication is the base to everything, but it's the participation to carry the communication to actually getting things done. So if we don't have the robust participation in our committees, I will tell you that as a person that has been on a committee that started out of a committee with 10 and then life happened and I was a committee of 2, it's a lot harder to get things done with a committee of 2 than a committee of 10. So just encouraging people and making it an environment where it's safe to share your differences. I mean, you and I don't agree on everything, but I would sit down and have coffee with you every day. We're not going to agree on everything, but if we have an environment where we're able to talk through our differences, then we're both able to make sure that even though the path may be like this, we're going forward. So again, the tone is set from the top down. If we let people know that we're inviting everybody, we know we're not going to agree on everything, but if we have the standard that, hey, when we do disagree, we're going to sit down and work it out and do it respectively, then I think we are going to be able to have those robust committees. I will tell you that I had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that he would like to be in my head because it was all rainbows. I trust me, you don't want to be in my head. You don't want to be in my head. There's a lot going on.
It was all
there.
rainbows. So in other words, he would rather you be cynical and rude than nice and forethinking.
Well, and that's when I replied back to him. I said, well, I look at it in a different perspective. If I don't look at things in a respectful manner, in a positive manner, then my head is not in the right place, and I'm not going to be able to operate to the best of my ability. Do bad things go on? Yes. Do cynical things go on? Yes. But it's how I process them and then how I learn and go forward from them. So if you tell me something and you don't see me get angry and scream about it, I hope you'll think, okay, great, she's processing that and we're going to get a plan to go forward. Because I'm not a yeller and a screamer. I will love to sit down and have a conversation with you, but I'm someone that processes things and tries to keep my emotion in check because I want to make sure that my brain is really full, so it needs to be operating at capacity. But it's how we operate in things too. So I'm hoping, again, a little bit of that will spill down from the top. If we disagree, we don't yell. If something happens, we don't yell. We sit down and we process it. We make a plan. And it's like, okay, this happened. What's going to be the best solution going forward so this doesn't happen again? And it's training people on how to think that way so we can be effective.
Oh, Steph said something great. You're going to love this. My government prof once said that as you hash out differences, that it was like churning butter. Eventually, all the cream rises to the top. This conversation is so important. I completely. And Lisa says, the tiny baby steps forward approach may have worked for 20 years ago, but we're past that now. We need to make some hard right turns right now just to get back on the road. So I think it's weird because I totally agree with what Steph says. I think you have to be able to talk to each other because you can't talk at each other. I mean, and that's what we do. So many of the times, we talk at each other. Where one person isn't listening and the other person is just, we have to be able to talk to each other, not at each other. And, I agree with Lisa too. I think, we're in a really major, I really honestly believe in all of the years that I've interacted with government, this is the worst legislature as a whole that I have ever seen. I mean, hands down. And that was me starting in 2006 or so with that legislature. And and the Republicans hadn't quite even, I guess they had just gotten majority in 2010. So, I mean, I don't know that we're getting better. I think we're getting worse here. And it's just like you said, Oklahoma County has been getting bluer and bluer. And if we can't educate people and get us back, we're going to be in trouble.
And think about what she said. So what's the easiest way to make a hard right turn? Think about the government as the Titanic. Is it easier to make a hard right turn with 10 people pushing or 1,000? Yeah. So going back down on the precinct level, if we have 1,000 people trying to make that hard right turn, that boat's going to turn faster. I can't emphasize enough just getting back to the grassroots level, because if it's us doing a podcast and 100 people hear it, great. What if 1,000 people hear it? Yeah. It's just making sure we have the people to push the boat. We can turn it as hard right as we want to, but again, how quickly we turn it is how many people we have pushing.
See, I love that. I love that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Michael.
Well, I was just going to say, I think kind of the key piece, in my opinion, to that activation kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, Jenny. As a party, you have to have a very clear and concise, define terms. This is what and who we are, period. And, it's it's when it's so convoluted and there's so many, rabbit trails. I mean, that to me, that's where, we have that such a divide, because like, in my opinion, right now, you've got the establishment that is in control of the Republican Party, and we're slowly getting the grassroots people. But I just think from the grassroots side, we have to say, hey, here's our 5 or 10 things, period. This is what we're about all the time, no matter what. And this is what you're joining are these 5 or 10 things, that makes a point. I mean, I think that's how we activate people, is they agree. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm looking for. That's what I'm going to do.
And we also have to come from the mindset is, let's say we ask everybody to make a list of 10, and these are the top 10 things that I would like to see done. Put 2 or 3 non-negotiables on there, and then the others, I know that I may not fully get exactly what I want, but at least as we're heading in that general direction. Well, sometimes it feels like people are like, okay, I understand it, and then they get to the table and it's 1 through 10 of non-negotiables. Well, that's not how politics works. It's not a zero-sum game. There's going to be things where it's like, I'm going to die on this hill. This is my 1, 2 that I am dying on this hill. But the rest of them, I understand that I have to have a little give. So we do have to come to the table with certain things, like the items on our platform where these are non-negotiables. But there are going to be other items that we have to understand. We're going to have some hard conversations on, because we may have to give a little bit in order to keep going forward.
Well, we have a couple of really good comments. Move beyond talking points. We need deep conversations. So Steph agrees with what you're saying about that. And Julia says, can't we just agree that government is way too big and oppressive?
Yeah.
And to me, that's the very bottom line. If you can't understand how big government creates tyranny, you shouldn't be a Republican.
Yeah. I mean, if I was a legislator, I mean, my number one thing, every single vote I have, the very first thing I do is I would say, does this make the government bigger or smaller? Period. I mean, that's literally what I would look at. Number one, every single time I look at a bill.
And that's where, again, I keep coming back to the grassroots, but it's incumbent on us to be involved, because if we're not electing people that share those same values, then they're going to get up there and vote different than what we think. Well, if we're not getting involved and making sure all our neighbors understand, hey, we need to elect this person because of this reason. And it is scary to think that, and I've done it at times too. I've just checked out because I'm like, okay, I'm at my max, checking out. Well, when I check out, I get disengaged, and then we turn around. And if you look at it of what's happened over the past 50 or 60 years, people have checked out because now we're both parents have to work. Sometimes both parents have to work 2 jobs. We're so involved in what we need to do to make ends meet, which we have to do that to survive. We've kind of let the government run amok. And then we step back and look and go, wow, this is really out of control. Well, how did it get out of control? It's because a lot of people disengaged because they didn't make time for politics. And again, if you don't get involved in politics, politics will get involved with you. So now we need to make sure that we have all those hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people trying to push that ship to make a hard right turn.
But also, I want to make one comment on that disengagement part. And I agree. Sean made a comment here. Jeannie might put that up. In my opinion, Kayla, it may not be. Yeah, I think the other side government's always counted on disengagement, but I think the other side of that is in my opinion, we compromise way too much. We just turn the other cheek. We're good. We're wholesome. We're Christian. We just turn the other cheek and say, okay, well, we'll get them next time or whatever. I think we do compromise too much. And like you look at Trump right now, he's writing all these executive orders because there is no compromise. He's literally just saying, this is how it's going to be, period, going forward. And I mean, how do we do that, in a good way through communication? I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the $1 million question. But I think, in my opinion, we're part of the reason we're here is because we've compromised way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I was saying something the other day, and we've got a bunch of comments I think you're going to want to see too. So let me just say this really quickly, though. I mean, I think you and I said this the other day, Michael, or I said it when we were on when we had another guest. I kind of feel like we're at the point where, remember, the Jews didn't want Jesus because they wanted Goliath. They wanted some big guy who was going to come in and just declare war on the Romans and get rid of them all. And they were like, well, Jesus, geez, he's really nice and knows all these, so I think part of the reason why Trump got elected is for that reason. I think people got so tired of feeling like they were under the government boot and all this compromise and being told that they had to pay for this. And it was okay if we did, if we allowed boys to be in girls' sports. And I think people just got sick of it and they wanted a king. I mean, they wanted somebody to just come in and lay down the law and say, this is the way it's going to be. And so I kind of agree with, what Michael said on that. John said there's a huge problem when we won't call out the wrongs elected legislators do. For so many, they don't want to hurt people's feelings and they want to and bow down to them elected know-it-alls. Lisa says, but when those 1,000 people are ignored and shut down and their bills aren't even heard, they get frustrated and impolite. It's not a communication issue. It's a they shut us down cold issue. Julia says, the term government services means I'm taking your life's work and giving it to someone else as a gift from the government. It punishes producers. And we just talked about what Sean said. And Lisa said too, people check out because we're not being represented. And I agree with what you said, Kayla. I do agree. People get to the point where, I mean, when you look at young moms with kids, for example, I mean, how much time do you really honestly have if you've got 3 under 5, and you're even if you're a stay-at-home mom and you've got 3 under 5, and you've got another, the spouse works out of the house. I mean, sometimes you just don't have enough to go all around. But I think a lot of people like me, I just checked out because the Republican Party wasn't representing me anymore. I'm a small government person. I'm not a compromiser in that area. So when they quit representing me, I got out.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to touch on real quick. So
okay, give me. Let me just get this one. Okay. When a legislator votes for good things 80% of the time, yet the other 20% of the things harm you or put you out of business, how is this helping those who elected them and got them into office? So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, well, and we'll don't let me forget about that comment. So let's go back. You talked about the executive orders, and I agree on a lot of the executive orders, but that's also a very slippery slope, because what if in a few years it turns and it changes to the woke agenda again? So the executive orders are a very slippery slope. But I'm going to say something that is not very popular with the legislators, but this, I will tell you, of my list of 10 things, this is a hill that I'm willing to die on: term limits. Because when you are committed to something, the smaller amount of time you have to get it done, to me, the more eager that I approach that. Whereas if you have, just a couple of years to get it done, or 12 years to get it done, hopefully you're going to be working more aggressive towards that goal. However, if you have been in a position for 40 years, in order to work aggressively towards your goal, you're going to have to compromise and ask for favors. But if you've been there for 40 years, you are very knowledgeable about your job. But sometimes I wonder about how effective you can be if you have 40 years of favors to return back for some of the things that you've asked for in the past. So I am very big on term limits, because if we get term limits, we're not having folks that are in there worried about, well, I need to do it this way, or no, you need to do it the way that your representatives ask you to do it. And so to me, I think if we really made a hard push for term limits, we would see some change going on there too, because we're not going to have people that are in there, their life goal is to be in government.
Well, but let me say this though too, because here's the argument to that point, because it's the argument that I've made too, which is if it's up to us, the people, then why should we have term limits? Because I think term limits make people lazy and then they don't vote. We should use our vote as the term limit. We should say, I think you suck. I'm voting you out, right? And then we don't need term limits. So in my set of perspective on that, I feel like term limits are kind of lazy because it does allow people to just go, well, they're out in another 2 years anyway. I just a thought.
Well, that's where it goes back into the grassroots and how actively are we pushing on them.
Exactly. Sean says, look at HB 1190, how it got shut down. Sean, I don't remember any bills by numbers anymore, so you'll have to say what that was.
Yeah.
If they vote on principle, it would be get 100% of the time. And I think that's kind of what we're getting at. Wendy says, denial of God, always a problem in this world. Jenny White, I'm very glad to see Kayla on today. Thank you, Kayla, for already beginning to solve the communication problem in Oklahoma County. We have to look at the constitutionality of everything that we're doing. That would solve 99.9% of our problems because there are very few that will argue with the document that we all agree secures our rights. Good point, Wendy.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Compromising. This is done too much by those at the Capitol, compromising and not standing up for the people just to have a hope to even get your bill heard or on the floor. And Steph says it's the sleepers that hurt the whole process. So, I mean, the one thing that I think we have all agreed on at this point in time is that we have got to get more people involved. I mean, that's like the first thing that we all agree on.
And I think it's happening. I think it's happening, Jenny. We've talked about it, or I've told you many times the grassroots is much more activated right now, I think, than any other time
I think
in
so
the
too.
past. And to your point earlier, Kayla, COVID is what activated me. I mean, I was just a guy trying to survive, with my family, working as much as I can. But once COVID happened, because Jenny, you've been hard in politics for a long time, but COVID is what literally activated me to just the mentality of how I think about everything. All that happened because I allowed it to happen. And because I allowed it to happen, I can also change it. That's how I feel.
Well, look, I am a true believer in sunlight is always the best disinfectant. Like, look what happened during COVID for our education system. Parents that weren't really actively involved because they were making sure that they were putting food on the table now had to become basically a homeschool parent. How many parents were infuriated about what was going on in our education system? It's not that they didn't care. It's just it's something that wasn't highlighted or something they had been actively involved in. So every time that something like that happens where people are made aware, hopefully that triggers them or what makes them focus their energy on wanting to get involved, because the more people that get involved, the more light that it sheds on a problem. And I mean, look at all the craziness that is happening in the education system. My husband and I do not have children, but we have done the exchange program. And being two adults that did not have kids in the school system, I never gave the school system a second thought. That's something that just operated. Well, we've been fortunate enough to have children from all over the world, and we've had people from Japan, Germany, Italy, and it was eye-opening how far American students were behind others. We were enrolling them in AP classes to keep their mind active because they had it in a freshman or a sophomore, and we're trying and begging to get some of our seniors to go into these AP classes. Well, it's something that I wasn't involved in, but until light got shed on it, I wasn't aware of the problem. So again, going back to the grassroots, the more people that we get involved, I think the more things that we'll discover. And just again, the more active that we get, the more we'll be able to make change. But it goes back to grassroots. It truly is incumbent upon us to initiate that change.
Well, I mean, again, I think I've said it every podcast now. What did Washington say to the woman on the street? A republic, if you can keep it. He didn't mean accidentally keeping it. He meant strive to keep it. Stay involved to keep it. So okay, a couple more and then we'll kind of wind it up because I know you've got to get back to work. You actually have a job, so we need to get you and Michael back to work. How many times have you heard how much damage can they do in 2 years? Well, sometimes that's a lot. And That's true. Maybe a break and then they can come back. We had a rule in Oklahoma County for the state chairman, which allows for a couple of terms, a mandatory break, then a person can run again if people like the job they're doing. This rule didn't get heard at the state convention last year. And of course, Julie has to say voluntary taxes are the way to government by the people for the people. John says you have too many at the state GOP causing disruption where nothing gets done. And I will say, I'm tired of the infighting. It does nothing and people, it needs to stop. Educated and involved. Politicians can talk nice and win you over. People have to start digging deep. I agree with you, Stephanie. Look at who's funding their campaigns. There's a lot to look at. I hear way too many people say, oh, I got to meet so-and-so and they were so nice. I'm voting for them. Stephanie, number one comment. Is anybody going to strive to get over the number one comment there? John Boy, this is long-term looking, not short-term. We had multiple rule changes that didn't get heard last year. This was just one of them. Julia, the government gives money or favors to more than half the people in the U.S. More people involved may or may not help. People involved that won't steal from their neighbors should be involved. Wendy says tariffs, they are a good thing. I need to do more research on tariffs, but my feeling is that they are, just because we're getting screwed over. So that was getting all of our comments up. I think we had great comments today. We have had a whole, Kayla, you were super popular today. We have had one of the best. I mean, we have a lot of people on right now listening to you. So, I mean, I think people are engaged. They want to know what you want to do. They're probably interested in getting involved and seeing where this is going. So I'm so glad we had you on today. Steph says, I just want to say, I love all of you guys. Y'all stay so active. They are the old way to pay the bills instead of taxing the people. And that worked very well. And that's kind of my thought about it too, Wendy. So anyway, Kayla, I'm so grateful. I mean, to me, just your desire and willingness to communicate and the way in which you do it and where it's so understandable and you're willing to talk about things that sometimes people just go, I don't even want to talk about that. So I just love you for that. I'm so grateful you're in this job. I just see good things. I personally see good things coming from you and for this effort. So
just remember, we all need grace and we all need prayers and we all need positivity. And I want to say that if you are not receiving communication from the county, please email chairman at
hold on. Chairman at
okcogop.com. Or you can also go to okcogop.com and register, put your email in there. We want to make sure that you're getting the communications. And then hopefully we'll be able to get the text going pretty soon. But that way we're making sure that we reach as many people as possible in our communications.
Okay, so I'm going to put both of them on the same one while we sign off so people can, okcogop.com. You would think I would remember that. Chairman at okcogop.com. Okay, so both of them are up there now, and we're going to make sure people have both of those. So that if you want to get in touch with Kayla, if you want to get on a committee, if you want to get back involved with the Oklahoma County Republican Party, here you go. Here is your way to do it. And as Kayla said earlier, and I'm going to follow up on, complaining doesn't count if you're not willing to put something up of your time. Just saying.
Yes.
So don't complain.
Some of those go into, I am in charge of the Q&S, questions and solutions. I'm not in charge of B&M, itching and moaning.
I love that. But I mean, you're 100% right. You literally, I've said that. And I know, Michael, you said that too to people. Well, what are you doing to fix it? If you're going to, if you're going to bitch about it, what are you doing to solve the problem? And that's the other thing. So I don't like to hear the bitching if you're not going to do something to solve the problem. And I will say this, I think sometimes, and this is to your point early on that you made, Kayla, about time. I think sometimes we think things take way more time than they're going to. And so you hear, well, serve on a committee or, get involved, and you're like, I don't have time. Well, I think what you said earlier, and let's go back over that point. If you don't have the time, just send in a couple of bucks, 25, 50, 100, whatever you can afford. And then let them take that for the people who are going to be involved to do what they need to do, setting up the events, that kind of thing. But Kayla, it doesn't take a huge time investment to be on a committee, right?
No, it does not. It does not.
So, I mean, maybe once a month meeting, or, if you're like really super involved, you can put more time in, but
it depends on the committee that you're on. So there's going to be committees that take a little bit more time and effort, like our training committee. Got to make sure that all the material is put together properly so we can hold the events to train the folks in the precincts and the House districts. But if it's something that if you're on the fundraising committee, although that's extremely important, they are not going to meet as much, as because once we have a couple of campaigns going, they're going to be more on autopilot, and we don't have big events every month for fundraising. So depending on the committee, there'll be different time requirements for the committees.
But it's not your whole life. It's something you can do. Wendy says we need precinct chairs. John Boy says so many get tired of the fight. And that's true. I mean, I've been in it for 15 years. Do you know how many people I know who aren't in the fight anymore just because they got sick of it? We lost them for that. I phrase those who keep fighting for the people. It's taxing in a lot of ways. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, something I think that's great with Kayla is that organization skill that she brings in now, where you're actually going to have a list. Things are going to be very organized. It's a lot easier to participate in something that things well ahead of time. You know exactly what you're going to be talking about. You know that there's written down goals that are committed to, or a written down list, whatever it may be. I think that will speed that process along, much, much better than, because when everything is just so haphazard, then things take forever. You get no resolve. There's no results. There's no production. I think with you going in, Kayla, and having just that skill set of, 1, 2, 3, here we go. I think you're going to get things done much, much quicker than we've seen at the county level.
Well, and I hope people can see how effective we're being when they see things being checked off the list too. And we're not just giving you lip service. It's things that we truly care about and want to see change. And so we're making a difference. So it also holds us accountable. If I put 10 things on the list and get 2 done, how effective have I been? Yeah. So when the next election comes, you can judge me based on that.
Wendy says that she agrees with that too. So, I mean, you definitely, honestly, I think you have so much going for you. And again, I love having you on. You're so well-spoken, and you just do such a great job at talking about this stuff. So, God bless you for being on here again today. I really appreciate you. And, we may have to have you back on for some insurance stuff. We'll have to see how that's going.
This wasn't torture enough. I'm just kidding. I do set the expectation that if we communicate well, people will want to get involved. So I'm really hoping that when I check the email tonight, there will be emails that's like, hey, I've stepped away for a bit, but I do want to get re-engaged. So I hope for that.
Well, and Ralph says she's got very good people surrounding her. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Well, Kayla, we're going to let you go for now, but we're not going to let you go for forever. And we hope to have you back on. And, anytime that you are doing something and you would like us to talk about it, you are always willing to come on. That we are always we would love to have you on. So if you want to text me and say, hey, can you give me 5 minutes to talk about this event or whatever, this door is open.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
No, we're glad to have you, and just good job. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, I hope.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye. Boy, I loved having Kayla on this show.
Yeah.
She is, man, that girl is a go-getter. I mean, she just, and for whatever, I mean, don't move her stapler because she's got a plan.
She will know if you move that stapler.
I know. Sean says, this is interesting. I hope she's going to stay. I hope Kayla will stay in the green room for a little bit. I'd love to serve on a committee, but the majority of House Republicans have proven that we are not for the people. I had a bill shot down with large number of Republicans voting against it. Well, here's the thing though, Sean, I'm with Kayla on what she said about the involvement, because there is no possible, if we had a huge number of people that had gotten involved to the point where they were actively sending correspondence to their legislator, this wouldn't be happening. It wouldn't be happening. We don't have that group yet. And I think that what Kayla's trying to do by re-engaging people, by making this, a situation in which it's organized and specific, I think that is absolutely going to help people want to get back engaged. And I think once we get that group together, I think things will shift. But I'm definitely with her. You can't say you're for the grassroots and then expect a top-down approach. I mean, I think what she said was 100%. It has to come from the bottom up. And that means we have to get our neighbors involved. We're responsible for that, is getting our neighbors involved. We can't put everything on Kayla's shoulders and go, well, you're the one getting it done. No, she's the one guiding it. We're the ones getting it done. So we just need to make sure that, and then Stephanie says, another great podcast. I loved seeing Kayla. I had heard of her, but never had the opportunity to see her or hear her. She sounds like she'll do great as chair. I'm so glad we had the, beware getting rid of their darlings, though. You will be punished. Yeah. Oh, yes. We found that out, didn't we? Communication, it's been the way, and it's also been hindered. The county committee is the way in Oklahoma County, and I'm hopeful it gets going soon. And I do believe that it will. So I don't have I actually am like, but we'll have to. Grass needs, but again, John, then that's on the grassroots, right? So that means us getting each other involved. So, I mean, I couldn't have agreed with Kayla more than 100% on what she said on that. Okay. So Friday, we're going to have our friend Mary with V1SUT on. She's going to be doing a kind of a departure from what she's been researching lately. And she's going to talk about tick diseases in Oklahoma, which is actually something that was up my alley. When I worked at the health department, I actually had a paper that won an award that I wrote about ticks and tick diseases in Oklahoma. So we'll have that. And then actually we're going to have Mary back on again next Wednesday, because then she's going to talk about some of the other things like the trans coach, the woman who became a man who then got arrested and was found guilty of molesting a student. So we'll be talking about that on Wednesday. Good show. Let's say firebrands. And the problem is that a lot of legislators don't communicate with their constituents, with the exception of Rick West. Well, I mean, oh my goodness, look at Gabe Woolley. Look at oh my goodness. Look at Gabe. Look at Jim Shaw. Look at our friend that I'm having problems remembering her name. There are a lot of people who are actually the new ones that are out there communicating with their constituents. But I had a conversation with Gabe. I'm going to have him on coming up next month. But Gabe and I had a conversation, and he said, that's frowned on. I just keep communicating, but they frown on that. The establishment inside the legislature doesn't like him keeping his constituents apprised of what's going on. They thrive. It's like Kayla said, sunshine's the best disinfectant, and they don't like that. They like that darkness. So Kendall, Sacchieri, that's one of the reasons why I love you, Jana Belcher. Yes, Jet Marshall are two. Yeah. So there are a number of them that do for sure. Kendall Sacchieri, yes. All right, guys, it was good to see you today. Thank you so much for being with us. We had a wonderful audience today. I hope you learned a lot from Kayla. I hope you learned that it's our job to get involved. We can't leave everything on Kayla's shoulders or the state chairman's shoulders. If it's to be a grassroots, that means it's a bottom-up party. That puts the onus on us to get stuff done. Anything you want to talk about before we get off of here, Michael?
No, I think so.
All right. Okay. Well, then we're good. And it was good to see you today. It's a beautiful day. Try to get out, get some vitamin D. And we will see you again on Friday with Mary. You won't want to miss that. It's going to be really interesting. So thanks for tuning in. So great to have you all on again. We love you so much and all your comments. And thank you for being such faithful viewers. And we'll see you again on Friday. Have a great time. Bye.